So the first thing we're going to do is apply the finger cots. This will protect the watch movement from hand oils and other dirt. We put one on the index finger, middle finger and thumb. Now before we get to work, we want to put the movement inside the movement holder. So place it facing down with the oscillating weight up and screw it in so that it's tight. The kit comes with a small parts organizer. This is for storing all the small parts in the movement. You can either follow along with me in organizing the parts or go your own way. The first thing we're going to do is remove the automatic winding mechanism. This is consisting of two parts, the oscillating weight and the automatic train bridge. We're going to remove that via these two screws and make sure that you've pulled the setting stem to the outwards position. On the underside you can see a winding wheel. This transfers the oscillating motion to the barrel train, which is then stored in the mainspring barrel. The crown wheel also turns the same train of wheels when the crown is turned. This is how the watch collects and stores energy. Let's remove these wheels. Now let's remove the wheel train bridge by unscrewing these two screws. Take your tweezers and apply some leverage to pull this off. We've now exposed the wheel train, but the ratchet wheel here is sitting on top. Let's remove it so that we can get access to the wheels. Now let's remove the balance wheel assembly. Undo this screw, take off the balance bridge and be very delicate with this piece. Now we're going to remove this crown wheel bridge assembly in total, including the crown wheel itself. Unscrew these two screws. Again, you'll need to apply some leverage with the tweezers here. And now remove the barrel assembly. Inside the barrel you can see a coiled spring. This is all the energy that's been stored from winding. Here, if you look close enough, you can see the click. The click holds the ratchet wheel against the force of the mainspring, allowing the watch to be wound. It's also responsible for the clicking noise when winding. It only allows the ratchet wheel to be turned one way. Now let's remove this center wheel bridge, which pins the center wheel to the main plate. This escape wheel, which is part of the escapement assembly. Now we'll remove two other major components of the escapement assembly, the pallet fork and the pallet bridge. As with the other bridges, some leverage is required here. Now we're going to turn the movement over and start working on the front. Just release the movement by unscrewing. turn it over and tighten it up again. So now we're going to dismantle the setting stem assembly. Putting this back together is the hardest part of this project, so I'm going to suggest you take a few minutes here to explore how the mechanics work. You can pull the stem out to engage the center and minute wheels. This is for the time adjustment. Push it in to see how it disengages and engages with the now removed winding train. Let's go ahead and remove the setting jumper by undoing this screw. Take care when removing this setting jumper. The assembly below is under tension by the yoke spring. The whole thing could ping out if you're not careful here. Here we can see the assembly more clearly. The yoke is held in tension by the yoke spring. It moves the sliding pinion back and forth, being moved itself by the setting lever above, which is moved by the stem. Let's take these pieces out. The stem is holding the clutch wheel and winding pinion in place. These work together to either drive the crown wheel and wind the watch, or disengage the hour and minute wheel to set the time. When we remove the stem, we can easily remove them both. The final assembly is the minute train. It's guarded by the minute wheel guard. The clutch wheel that we just removed drives the small setting wheel on the right hand side to drive the minute wheel and set the time. The minute wheel has a reducer on top to convert the minute speed into an hourly speed for the hour wheel. The final step of the disassembly is to remove the cannon pinion from the center wheel. It's a friction fit, so you need to pull quite hard with tweezers to remove it. The cannon pinion is the heart of the motion works. This piece is what translates the movement of the wheels on the back to the timekeeping display on the front. Now we're down to the main plate. I think it's time to rebuild. We're going to thread the center wheel and pinion through the rear face of the main plate. Take the cannon pinion in your tweezers and now press them both together for a friction fit. Place the minute wheel, followed by the hour wheel and washer. I'd encourage you to play with the wheels to see how they work as you put this movement back together. Now place the setting wheel, and finally we're going to replace the minute wheel guard. This doesn't locate, so use your best judgment on its orientation and screw it into place. If you're ready for a challenge, let's put that setting stem assembly back together. It's difficult to see with the naked eye, but the clutch wheel and sliding pinion each have a side with a slanted sawtooth interface. These sides fit together in the assembly. That's this side and this one. First, fit the clutch wheel in this groove, sawtooth facing in. Now, holding the sliding pinion in place with tweezers, thread the stem all the way to the end. You'll know it's right because you'll be able to turn the minute wheel assembly on the front of the movement. Now place the setting lever as such. When placing the yoke, ensure the neck is resting inside the sliding pinion and set it to the right hand position. The yoke spring is extremely challenging. Locate it as per the video first, then take the tweezers in your left hand and screwdriver in your right. Then we'll hold the yoke in place with the tweezers, the spring resting on top. Now, carefully compress the spring while pushing it down between the yoke and the main plate. Until the setting jumper is back on, be extremely careful here. This assembly could ping out at any moment. Now let's check the stem is working as intended. Seems good to me. Now we're going to put the first part of the escapement back, the pallet fork. The pallets on the pallet fork are knocked by the escape wheel. This causes the pallet fork to move back and forth. This motion gives energy to the balance wheel, causing that very cool back and forth oscillation and constraining the energy release in timed increments. Think of a pendulum in a clock. The pinion on the fork sits in this jewel, and the fork rests between the two lugs in front. Now we're going to replace the pallet bridge. This has two holes for locating and a jewel. The pinion on the top of the pallet fork should rest in this jewel, which acts as a low friction bearing. The previously mentioned escape wheel is next. The pinion on the bottom rests in this jewel. For now, it will sit loosely until we replace the wheel train bridge. Place the center wheel bridge back with the jewel on the center wheel pinion. Pop the location rings in place and screw it back on. Double check that the escape wheel and pallet fork are interacting. They should move each other back and forth like this. Now let's put the complete barrel back so we can fit the crown wheel bridge. Previously we mentioned the pallet fork transferring energy to this balance wheel. It does so by knocking this tiny roller pin jewel near the balance staff or axle. The balance wheel then rotates and springs back to knock the pallet fork again, allowing the escape wheel another chance to transfer energy. This hole is for the balance shaft on the bottom of the wheel, and the bridge has its own easy to spot location points. Let's check that the roller pin jewel and pallet fork are interacting. Now let's put the wheel train back in place. This deeply recessed jewel is for the third wheel. Place the third wheel this way down and tuck it under the crown wheel. The fourth wheel has a long pinion for mounting the second hand. Slide it through this central jewel. Now replace the ratchet wheel, noticing that it has a square interface for alignment, before screwing it in. Now let's replace the wheel train bridge. It has two location holes, one on the right and one on the left. The jewel should align with the pinions on top of the wheels. Now for the final step. Let's replace the automatic winding mechanism and close this movement up. This large reduction wheel is going to go here. The 2 jewels on the diameter of this first reduction wheel are for the other 2 wheels. Place them in one at a time, and they should be touching each other. You can very gently turn the crown to see this wheel train in action. It can be tricky to relocate the automatic train bridge back on the movement. This is because you can accidentally disturb the loose wheels below. Try your best and test. If it won't wind up, take it off and start again.